Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of Pin Stack Smashing. I am your host and favorite YouTube lockpicker, Master Yale Quickset. Well, I just returned from Chicago as I attended the 2019 Educause Conference for Security Professionals. This conference actually had a small lockpicking event in which I was able to speak to another lockpicker for the first time in my life. They also sold simple products as well, including lockpicks, lockpick guns, and several different types of locks, including these two, which I purchased for only $15. The padlock was $10, and the three-wheel combination lock was only $5. I also purchased my very first dimple picking set for only $20. So let's take a closer look at the first lock. Now this is an ABUS Brady lock. It is a key-retaining steel lockout padlock, according to the documentation. This lock actually comes in several different colors for this plastic band here. This one so happens to sport a lovely shade of brown. The product number is 123249. This has a 1.1 inch by 1.7 inch body size with a 1 inch diameter. The body is also made of laminated stainless steel. Each plate is coated to fight against corrosion. It has a triple coated 3-inch hardened stainless steel shackle with a 0.8 inch horizontal clearance. The tumbler is stainless steel and has 5 pins. One of which I know, in fact, is a security pin, and I'll show you why in just a second. So what is a key retaining lock? Like, why is that in the name itself? Well, this means that you can't actually remove the key from the body of the lock until the lock is placed back into the lock position. And here, I'll demonstrate that for you now. We have the key turned. The lock is now in the unlocked position. And we see that the key just won't come out or turn. This lock doesn't really have any spring action that I could tell either, which means I have to manually pull the shackle out of the body of the lock whenever I unlock it or pick it. I also need to actually turn the key itself counterclockwise into the lock position whenever I want to lock the lock, which on most everyday padlocks is done automatically by using springs. So the easiest way I've found to pick this lock is to first simply get a false set. So what is a false set? Well, a false set means that we're going to think that we have set a pin, like a spool security driver pin, when in fact we're not actually setting the pin. And the reason why is because the driver pin being shaped like a spool is going to actually make a click noise and cause the tumbler itself to rotate ever so slightly and feel just as if you set the pin. This is a simple safeguard that lock manufacturers put into place, called security pins, to help mitigate the work of lockpickers. Okay, so to demonstrate the false set, what I'm going to be doing is using a simple protractor here, and I'm going to be placing this 90-degree mark right here, perfectly aligned with this part of the plate on the bottom here at the key entry. And then just like that, and when I do so, I'm going to also align the pick itself with the keyway. And we can see that there's about actually a 1 degree difference. This 1 degree deviation is going to grow as we falsely set the spool pin. The spool pin is located in the back, which makes this a little bit tricky here. What I'm going to be doing is using a simple Peterson hook here with 18,000th thickness. Place it all the way into the back here. And then I'm going to be pulling the tension wrench out just ever so slightly, about, I'd say 2 millimeters, maybe 3 millimeters, just to give a clearance above these rivets here so that it can turn once I actually do ultimately pick the lock. Now another thing that makes this tricky is that the shape of this hook pick right here, as you can see, it tapers as it gets towards the end. Now this fatter part at the bottom here poses a problem in smaller tumblers like this, in which I can accidentally press down on pins 1, 2, and 3, especially if a pin sticks up further. So I have to be very, very gentle, and the way I found out that I can ensure that I'm not in fact jamming a pin. If I have a pin jammed, by the way, I won't be able to obtain the false set. It'll be almost impossible. Best way to figure out that I'm not jamming a pin is to put lots of pressure onto the tension wrench, and when I let go, I make sure that there's no click. Okay, so far so good. I'm going to pull the hook out. Oops. You see that? Hear that click? There we go. I'm going to pull the hook out till I feel the binding pin. Just before the binding pin, I'm going to put a little bit of pressure, and poof, we got our false set. You probably didn't see it. Let me try it again so you can see above my fat fingers here. Okay, now watch the tumbler itself. See where it's placed here? There we go. It turned ever so slightly. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing now is simply placing the protractor itself. The 90-degree mark, again, we're going to align with this part of the keyway entry hole right here in the base plate of the lock. Line it up there perfectly. And then we're going to be placing the hook pick aligned with the key entry itself, and we can see that there's a larger than 5-degree difference now. So we went from 1 degree to about 6 degrees in difference. Now this deviation is very hard to actually feel because the tumbler turns very, very so slightly. So all I need to do now is simply push down on pin 2. The next binding pin, I believe, is pin 2, and then we're able to open the lock. So essentially all I have to do is pick 2 pins. Now let's do that again without using the protractor, demonstrating the false set. There we go, we got the false set. Pin 2. There we go, and we got the lock open. Now, even though the security of this lock was very, very easy to defeat, I still enjoy picking it. I don't have many locks that have spool pins that are cut this deeply. The experience of picking a spool pin is very valuable in the sport of lockpicking. Again, what's happening is the spool is cut very deep, which means that whenever it gets to the shear line, it's going to click and turn, causing the tumbler to turn, causing the false set. It's hard to believe that this lock was only $10 when I'm going to be having so much fun with it. Okay, so our next lock here is this 3-wheel combination lock. Now the shackle of this lock is actually simply a steel cable. I can't seem to find a brand name on it, but I do see that it has 3 combination wheels, which I'm guessing is set right now to 000. And we're going to try to decode this lock. Now each one of these wheels has 0 through 9 on it. Now you know what this yields from our previous videos about combination locks and decoding combination locks. That yields a 1000 set of permutations, 000 through 999 essentially, or if you look at it this way, it is 10 to the 3rd power, because each one has 10 different options. So let's go ahead and cut this open. Wow, it's a lot shinier now that it's outside the bag. Actually looks really nice. Oh, it looks like I found a button here. Ah, there we go. I guess this button allows the shackle to move. Which makes sense because we don't have the right code. Now that we have the right code, the shackle pops open. Okay, so now we know how the lock actually works. Let's go ahead and set the lock here. Oops, easy. Get back to 000, which is the combination. Press in the button, insert the shackle, and then turn. There we go. The lock is in fact locked. So let's see if we can't figure out how to decode this lock. Honestly, I can't figure out how to hold the damn thing because it's so small. Alright, we've got to click on 4. Click on 4. Gotta click on 4 again. And another click on 4. Okay, so I'm guessing this is going to have a 4-number deviation. And what that means is whenever I actually set the lock to a different number, I move these wheels around till I feel clicks, and then once they click, I simply subtract 4 from each wheel, and then I'm able to determine the combination. I'm sticking the shim in the back of the window right here, flush against the back here, and then I'm simply just going to turn this until I hear a click. I gotta click on 0. Click on 1. And not only do I hear a click, I can feel the shim push downwards whenever it happens. So 0, 1. Looks like we got 1 again. Actually, looks like it's an in-between value. Okay, so that one actually was 1. That one was 2. Ooh, and that one's 0. Okay, so 0, 2, 1. So we subtract 4 from 0, that's going to yield 6 as it loops around. We subtract 4 from 2, that's going to yield 8 as it loops around. We subtract 4 from 1, and that's going to yield 7. Well, my friends, the night has sadly come to an end, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Pinstack Smashing. I would love for you to take away a single piece of advice from this episode, and it is that if you are new to the lockpicking sport and you do get a chance to go to a conference which has a lockpicking table, lockpicking event, or better yet, an actual lockpicking conference, I highly recommend going and talking to as many lockpickers as possible. Who knows, maybe you'll even be able to pick up some cheap tools as I did. Again, for $35 total, I was able to get a dimple pick kit set, a 3-wheel combination lock which I was able to decode, and this ABUS Brady lock which contained a deeply cut spool pin which allowed me to get a better understanding of the way that spool pins set and false set. I am your host and favorite YouTube lockpicker, Master Yale Quickset. I hope that you have a good evening, friends, and good night. Ah, you have found me. Welcome to this bonus pick round. In this bonus pick round, we're in the city of Chicago, where we're going to be picking a caliber key padlock. This is a 1 5-inch laminated steel padlock with a hardened steel shackle. It has a 22mm vertical shackle clearance. The shackle is 6mm in diameter and again is hardened steel. The cylinder is solid brass. Now it doesn't say how many pins are on this lock, but we'll soon find out. This is a CVS quality brand lock. Okay, so taking a look at the keys themselves, we can see that the bitting isn't too terrible. And it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4 pins. Here's a look at the bottom of the lock with Chicago in the background. So let's go ahead and first try to rake the lock. For this exercise, I will be using a standard wave rake from Peterson. Look at that. The lock opened immediately. So let's go ahead and try single pin picking this lock. Okay, so for this exercise, I'm going to be using a standard rubber-handled GSP hook from Peterson. Just going to speed bump this. 1, 2. 3.